Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Background: I'm a very baby-faced 18-year-old male. Anyways, I was going to do some grocery shopping as my dad wanted me to buy some things to cook. Since I was smoking and knowing I will be there for quite some time, I decided to have a smoke. And that's what I exactly did. About halfway through my cigarette, a guy with a very muscular body approaches me. He looks me straight in the eye and the following conversation happens. "Hey, what's up?" I said that as gently as possible. "Don't you even pretend you're not a crackhead, you jerk. I know what you're up to. You're selling drugs to the children around here. I've seen you do for quite some time." Note: in my country, Turkey, drugs are pretty much not allowed. As it's illegal, you can even face jail time if you're carrying a packet. At this point, I was confused as hell and tried to tell that I am not that guy who he thinks I am. I have never used any kinds of drugs before. You're probably… He cuts me off and says, "No, I've seen you selling some. Don't you even dare lie to me." At that point, I was furious, as my parents are both doctors, and I probably know better than this guy what drugs do to a human. Now, I was there, scared of this guy, and he looked like he was bodybuilding, because he had way too much muscles. What I didn't know is that he did not have any kind of martial arts education. So, I did the only logical thing there. As my smoke finished, I put it down, and I walked away. And this guy holds my arm so I can't go anywhere. Like I said, I was furious, so I punched him straight in the face, right at the top of the nose. His nose started to bleed and he tried to punch me. Little did he know I had some martial arts experience, unlike him. Not much, maybe for like 4 months. I used it to my advantage and arm locked him. And then I used my leg to get some leverage and just shoved him onto the ground. The people around me had already called the police, and by the time I put the guy down on the floor, they approached, running, asking what was going on. I explained to them the situation, then the people who saw the whole ordeal backed me. He then told the officers that I was lying and I was underage smoking since I was very baby-faced. The police came around, asked me for my ID, I gave them, and they verified I wasn't underage, so I was good. The guy was livid as he didn't see me in handcuffs on a police cruiser. He later told them that I was smoking weed or something, and they checked the security cameras. They saw me pulling a cigarette out of a black box. In Turkey, all cigarettes are packed the same box, except the name under the box. Then they realized that it was a cigarette. Judging by the look of the cigarettes I put on my mouth, it was yellow filtered. Then they told me to go with them, as they needed to listen to the whole story. I got to the police station, called my dad, and then explained everything. After all of the procedures were done, they asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. They handled the situation with the guy, and then I left the police station. About a month or two later, I saw him at the grocery store. When he saw me, he turned red and stormed out. So after my first encounter with an entitled parent around 10 years ago, I hoped I would never meet one again. Then it happened last week. Let me share this insane story with you. Alright, first, let me give you a bit of backstory. Entitled mom used to be my mom's friend. She was going through a divorce and needed a place to stay for a few nights until she found her own apartment. Everything was going well, and I didn't mind her and her kid crashing at our place since they were polite and helpful. However, I admit I'm a bit of a hype beast. I've collected a ton of expensive shoes and clothes that have cost me around 7K. I'm really protective of my collection, so only my close friends and family are allowed into my room. There is this one blue IKEA bag in my room filled with clothes and a pair of shoes that I was planning to sell. Keep this in mind. It becomes crucial later in the story. Alright, let's dive into the actual story now. The entitled mom told us that she had found an apartment and would be leaving the next morning. The day passed by uneventfully, but in the evening after dinner, all hell broke loose. She says, "Wait, so what's so important in your room that you still haven't let us in there?" Oh, there are a lot of expensive shoes and clothes in there. I'm really protective of them since I've invested a lot of money into my collection. Oh, my baby is also into shoes. Can you let him look around in there? He won't touch anything, he just wants to look, right baby? She looks at her innocent kid. Yes, mommy. Well, okay, fine, but do not touch anything, okay? Of course. I reluctantly let him into my room and surprisingly, he keeps his promise. He doesn't touch anything and he behaves well. Then his curious eyes fall upon the blue bag in the corner of my room. What's in that? He asks. Oh, that's some clothes I'm selling tomorrow. I show the innocent kid everything inside. Sean was her spoon Air Max 97, an off-white Mona Lisa t-shirt, a few Cos figurines, a pair of off-white socks, and a gray Supreme Box logo hoodie. The kid, looking really interested in the item, says, "Wow, these are so expensive. How much are you asking for them?" "I'm asking for 2,000 euros. The entitled mother, she's overheard the conversation. 2,000 euros for some clothes? Well, yes, some of these items are really limited and therefore very expensive. No clothes cost that much. You're scamming people into buying them. What? I'll take them for like 100 euros. And you're lucky I'm not calling the police." At this point, something clicked in my mind and I realized that the situation was about to take a nosedive. Me dumbfounded, I say. As I just said, some of them are limited and… Don't start me with that bullcrap. You're a scammer, and I will call the police on you. At this point, my mom had heard everything and asked what was going on in there. Your son is trying to scam me and my precious boy. Excuse me, what the hell? My mom knows me well and asked them to leave immediately. They start packing and we think the nightmare is over. Fast forward to the next morning, I had almost forgotten about the whole thing when I woke up, but then I realized that the blue IKEA bag was missing. Panic sets in as I wonder how she got it and how I'm going to explain this to the buyer who was supposed to purchase the items today. I go downstairs to the kitchen and ask my mom if she knows anything. "Mom, do you know anything about the blue IKEA bag?" Mom says, "Yeah, the entitled one showed up at 5 a.m. today and said that during the argument her kid thing fell into my room, so she wanted to pick it up. My parents' room is downstairs, so my mom said she could pick it up and went back to bed. We knew her new address, which was only a 15-minute drive from our home. We ring her doorbell, she opens up and there is a blue IKEA bag on the ground. We immediately start yelling at her for her entitled behavior and her audacity and thinking she could get away with this. What she said next left me stunned for a good 10 seconds, trying to process what I just heard. Mom says, "You have no right to take my son's stuff. Hand everything back now or we will call the police." I don't see any problem here. He said he was selling them anyway, and I left 100 euros on his drawer, which was a blatant lie. I whispered to my mom that we should leave and return with the police. Not even 30 minutes later we're back, and this time with the police in tow. We knock on a door and she looks surprised that we've returned. After some back and forth conversations between all of us, the police tell her, "You are under arrest for theft." I paid for the clothes. He's lying. The police weren't having any of it. Return the stolen property immediately or we will force you to return them. I paid, so I own the clothes. Arrest them for trying to steal my clothes. The policeman knew she wouldn't budge, so he handcuffed her and placed her in a car to wait. He went inside and found all of the stolen goods on their sofa. Thank goodness her son was at school, so nothing had been tampered with. It turns out she had cocaine in her pocket when she got arrested, so she didn't get off easy this time. She received 2 years of probation and a hefty dose of community service. Now for the juicy part, just 2 days ago she climbed onto our roof and broke into my room through my window with a hammer. Everyone woke up and she got arrested again. This time she didn't get off so easily. She received a 6-year prison sentence for violating probation, trespassing, and breaking into someone's home. I got the 2,000 euros for the goods the same day and told the buyer the whole story. We had a good laugh about it and I haven't heard from her kid again. Most probably, he's with his dad. Also, if you were wondering why my dad wasn't a part of the story, he was on a business trip in China and was coming back in 2 weeks. And that, my friends, is a story of the entitled mom who tried to steal my hype-based gear and ended up behind bars. This happened back in the day. It was a teacher I used to work with who taught a class of adult students who took a very high-stakes exam. This high-stakes exam, unless you passed this, you couldn't qualify for scholarships, some aspects of financial aid and so on, was multiple choice. And I was part of the campus proctoring team. This particular teacher didn't like me very much and I was fine with that. We had different personalities and that's okay. This was an important test. This exam is an important piece of data that the Harricombe County Community College system, fictitious name, uses to compare its success to sister schools across the county, and even across the state. It's not an ACT or SAT, but it's the junior college version of GRE, basically. So it just happens to be administered in this particular course, which is required by all who attend that major in pretty much anything. Anyway, sorry that this detail was added late. I am writing this as I'm remembering the details. I copied and pasted this from the bottom to this paragraph that it's in, so sorry if it seems choppy. So anyway, during the actual test, it was my job to make sure the classroom was fully functional, math helps were covered up and so on. This included covering up the 4 quadrants that were labeled in the 4 corners. The teacher we will call Captain Cheat was okay with most of my suggested demanded changes. Before the kids took the test, I made sure we covered up the 4 quadrants, but Captain Cheat was determined to have the 4 letters in the 4 corners up still. They were literally framed posters with fancy decorated letters A, B, C, and D. I was like, I don't see how this could help, but sure. Anyway, the students started walking in, looking, and the sparse walls seemed panicked for a second, then relieved to see that there were still letters up. This was my first clue of weirdness, but should have really been my second. During the test, I saw the teacher walking around the room looking at kids' answers. I noticed a very interesting pattern that, if you didn't pay attention, you would miss. No words were spoken. He would walk past the student would look up at the teacher would look away into the middle distance, the student would look at the same middle distance, then bubble in an answer. It was a little weird, but a very consistent pattern. I then paid a little closer attention and saw that some students were better at hiding what the teacher was doing than others. Some kids didn't look where the teacher looked, they just knew what to bubble somehow. Then it happened. A student took their pencil, pointed at a bubbled in letter, looked at the teacher looked at me, I looked away, and saw the teacher look intently at his picture at the corner of the room that said D. The kid then clearly changed their answer to D, even mouthing D, kind of whispering it to themselves even. Wow. Okay. When testing was over and every student handed in their Scantron and left, I immediately approached the teacher saying, I can't believe you. Impressive, but disappointing. You're literally cheating these students out of an education. You either have them retake this without your magic signs, or I go to the board. He responds, why don't you tell somebody who gives a crap? Hashtag good luck proving it. Yes, this dude cringely said hashtag. Enter malicious compliance. The first part of Captain Cheater's comments set me off, and at that point, honestly, I wasn't probably going to go ham on this guy. This is 100% due to the additional cockfied cringe factor of saying hashtag. Maybe I'm just jealous because I'm supposed to be cocky plus cringe and he's killing my vibe. But either way, I will tell somebody who gives a shot. The provost. The provost indeed gave a crap. This is a community college, which some people see as lesser than, but I see community college as truly superior for the first 2 years of college courses. The requirements to teach are having a master's plus 5 years experience in the field they are teaching. And at the university, you'll be in class of 500 and never really hear from the actual professor. It's cheaper and higher quality education pretty much across the board. It's a no-brainer, so those community college haters out there, whatever. So anyway, I tell the provost, and Captain Cheat is not just brought before the board, but is put on administrative leave instantly. Like instantly. He wasn't sent away in handcuffs or anything, the stakes weren't that high, but this was an exam that affected a lot of people's money, and in turn, lives. This guy looked particularly pissed, more so than usual. And I know for a fact that he hasn't worked at the university level since, based on his LinkedIn that says he's working at a Jarget warehouse. I, 32 female, am a divorced mom of 2. My son is 11 and my daughter is 9. My ex and I ended our relationship in 2017 and he remarried in 2021. His wife has no children of her own. This topic is one that she approached a few times with me, starting when my ex first married her. She told me that now they were a 2-parent household. There was no need for me to show up to all games, recitals, plays, and so on, because she would be going to them and there only needed to be one. I ignored her because I have always gone to that kind of thing. I'm self-employed and so I can easily plan my working day around events for my kids. My kids also want me there, so they always tell me about the bigger moments in their extracurricular or school and tell me when I should be there or if I need tickets and so on. My ex goes when he can, which is not often, and he never goes to anything he doesn't consider big enough. Ex's wife mentioned it to me again last year that she wanted to go alone and I needed to only show up when it's my parenting time. Yet again, I ignored her request and continued showing up, and my ex mentioned it to me also, and I told him that we could both go to their activities whenever we like, and it's not dictated by the court order since it doesn't take parenting time to show up and support your children. My son had a recital a couple of weeks ago and he told me that they were asked if they could get parental volunteers. I said of course I would do it. My ex's wife had asked when she was picking him up from his dance class one day if she could do more. They mentioned volunteers and she offered. We both arrived together and she was upset the whole 2 hours we were helping out. She was especially upset when I stayed. Afterward, she told me that she's trying to create a special bond with the kids, but they will never want her around as long as I'm there, and if I was a good person/mom, I would do the right thing and not show up every time and give her a chance to do it so she can show an extra effort for my kids. I told her I will always show up as long as my kids want me, and as long as I can physically do it. She told me her relationship with the kids is important though, and I honestly told her it's not important to me. That my kids' wishes, as well as my relationship with them, is definitely more important. My ex's wife told me that I was a jerk and she called me a selfish and jealous baby mama and accused me of unreasonable hatred. My ex also gave me a hard time about it afterward. Am I the jerk in the situation? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "Stepmother here, you're absolutely not the jerk. It's great that your ex's wife wants to be involved with the children, but only if it comes naturally and she doesn't have to force it. My stepdaughter 7 asks me to do stuff with her. Her mother hates it because she's been trying to win every interaction since as long as my husband remembers, we met after they'd already broken up. But she sucks it up most of the time when it's clearly what the stepdaughter wants. And I can't even imagine asking her mother to stay away from some events if the stepdaughter wants her there. I'd suck it up too. It would be the grown-up way to do things." Another commenter adds, "Not the jerk. At this point I will go nuclear and get a lawyer. She's actively trying to force you to alienate yourself from your children. They are not her children. What she wants means absolutely nothing. She has no rights, no say, and a lot of audacity. Tell your ex that you're going to get a lawyer involved if she keeps trying to overstep and bully you into abandoning your child. He needs to get her firmly in line, no excuses, no discussion. She is not their mother, she needs to respect you and leave you alone." A third commenter goes with, "Not that jerk. It's great that she wants to be an involved stepmother, but requesting that you miss out on events like this isn't the way to do it. I'd suggest to her that if she really wants to create bonding moments, then she should find an activity that the kids don't currently do that she can do with them, so long as it doesn't take away from their current activities."
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.